Hey, what's going on, everyone? It is David Palmer, the Leo King, and I'm here right before this second new moon in Cancer that's going to be going down here at the High Vibe TV studios, and I'm going to be doing a Q&A. I'm on my YouTube. I'm also on High Vibe, and I thought I would take your questions here live in the chat, and whether it's about whatever's going on that you want to know, from like maybe the deep astrology report I did to, again, I don't like questions if it's just about you and your own chart and your own life, because I think that's unfair to all of us in the collective. Let's have Craig that's back here doing it too. He's like, oh, I do have a mic.
That's true. I am here.
Yeah, he is here.
Hi, everybody.
How are you doing, Craig?
I'm doing pretty well. I had my physical therapy today, as I do on Fridays. I guess I could put myself on camera.
You can.
Wasn't planning on being camera, but what up, y'all? So yeah, I had my physical therapy today, and that went pretty well. And I had a delicious acai bowl. It's actually dragon fruit. It's this company called Blue Bowls out here in Southern California. Top notch. So I had a nice little dragon fruit today. And yeah, I'm going to go, possibly catch the tail end of the sunset here in Huntington Beach, and going to go pick up my bikes tomorrow because my physical therapist wants me to start riding my bike again.
Boom.
Yeah, going to get out into the world. Going to
I need to get
explore
a
Orange
bike.
County again.
I would join you on bike rides.
Yeah, I mean, I've got 4, so...
You got 4 of them.
Well, you always got to have extra when you live by the beach, and people come and visit you, and then you can just go and ride down the beach. And so it's always nice to have extras. And one is like a large one that I carry food in. I feel like a pizza delivery person in there. So I actually have like a cheeseburger bell on it, and I got baskets. So if you see me out there, you see me rolling. I'm not a delivery man. Just me. How's everyone else out there doing? How are you doing, Davey?
I'm doing much better. It was a really weird week, but I feel better now. But I had just like little stupid things happen in my life, like just adjustment stuff. So I don't know. I'm ready for Cancer to be over, to be honest with everybody. I'm a double Leo, and so is Craig. But yeah, Cancer season. I don't mind Cancer season. But yeah, I mean, this whole new set, and Maya's not here. She's actually off today, but Maya helped me with this set, and got this these cool new chairs, this whole new altar, all the zodiac are up here, and I've been looking at people's questions. Although I can't look at both at the same time. The YouTube one's popping, and the High Vibe one I can't do for some reason.
Yeah, I can.
Maybe Craig, you can do the High Vibe one. So I'll just start rapid firing because I had some people. I had seen one about what I had felt about new moon. Maybe I said full moon. A lot of people's questions that I had seen already went off, so it's kind of weird. If you ask a question, ask it again.
I just saw one real quick. Someone asked in High Vibe about the Nasara and Jasara. We talked about that fully last night on Full Disclosure, so you can go reference that. We had a good conversation.
Yeah,
about
those
all
are the
that.
12 to 20 like things to change the way that the government in America would work, correct?
Yes, exactly. And it goes everywhere. The last one, was getting rid of all nuclear power, all nuclear waste, as a forgiving of debt. There's a whole 20 list. Yeah, if you Google that, we spoke about it, and it's kind of it sounds great. It references world peace. It references putting down the arms and all that, which would be great if everybody in the world was on board. Unfortunately, they're not. So we can hope for that. We can hope for the best. But until all these countries, and you can't force these individuals that have been in power. Their families have been in power forever. They don't just want to give it up. So
I think like what I'd said last night was I just think that like that's a lot to ask at one time, and this is Capricorn. It's like you got to take things step at a time, and that's how governments work, and life works. I mean, there's a joke from being in the military that it's like hurry up and wait. Like even the military is like really slow to move things, or the government moves slow on things, and so is Capricorn. So I think that like it's a great. I think last night I said it was a great pie in the sky, or somebody had smoked some really good weed and had some really good ideas, and then, but to do it all at once or implement it all in one day would just be too much actually. And yeah, so that's where I stand on that. We'll get to a YouTube one.
What do you think
here.
about sidereal astrology?
I mean, it's important. I think sidereal is just as important as tropical. I think that they both serve each other. Sidereal, of course, is to help us understand the actual position of the planets from our look from Earth, as far as if you understand the way that it works, which goes pretty in depth for some people, but for others in astrology, they understand the precession of the equinox. But sidereal astrology, I would say, has its, when it comes to predictive elements, I would say that you would have to go into Vedic astrology, which is different than sidereal astrology, because there's a lot of sidereal astrologers out there now that are using kind of Western traditional ways, but the Western is based off the tropical. So unless you're using sidereal tropically, which there's some great astrologers out there like Vic DeCara and Nicole Brenny that know how to use that very well and move the nakshatras and so forth into the tropical positions. But it's an actual like real deep calculation that you have to do. So I and Michael Reed as well. I've interviewed him before, and he's also great at that. But as far as like maybe the person was referring more to the Vedic astrology, I think it's extremely accurate and extremely reliable and an extremely great source of the dasha system, or your D1 all the way through your D, whether you want to go all the way to your D40, or if you want to even go deeper and you want to look at some really karmic stuff, there's very similar aspects, especially now that Chris Brennan has, I think, been one of the great Western astrologers from the Astrology podcast that's brought Hellenistic astrology, the data that a lot of us tropical astrologers wanted to use of tables, and understanding how to use it, and the different levels, of course. And I think that right now zodiacal releasing is and Hellenistic astrology as a whole is blowing up. And I think his book really did a big part of that. I think his podcast did a big part of that. And I've been using it a lot in my readings and on myself, and it's been extremely accurate. It's been extremely accurate at places in my life. And that's why I like Vedic astrology, is there's so many great dasha systems that help you understand more than looking at it from an astrological transit point of view. That astrology is non-linear in time, meaning if you think of like when we see a planet up in the sky, it's like, the way that scientists look at it, it's like, well, the planet ain't there anymore. And when you were born, that planet was there, but it's not there anymore. Like there's something about that the planets and the universe seems to record and seems to still hold energy spots in spaces that you wouldn't see. And that's the beautiful part of it. And when you go into all these different table systems or dasha systems or Hellenistic astrology, or even if you want to use the Vadaria, or, you want to go into all these different systems, like there is something to say that there is something about astrology that has the magic about it, the alchemy about it, the interesting aspect that everything is tied in together and everything's correlated based off when you were born. So I'm not somebody to put down sidereal astrology or put down Vedic astrology. I mean, I prefer to use Western. That's the way I do it. But I actually, when things are going down, trust me, I'm on my Vedic apps looking at my dashas. You know what I mean? So,
So with things that are there and then they're not there, is Neowise from our ancestors, and Neowise is the comet that's going on right now.
I mean, it's 6,800 years, I think, is the roundabout date of the last time that it came around, which would have been around Sumerian times. And the interesting part is like the Sumerian tablets and how they've been really being more discovered recently. And there's other great YouTube channels that aren't really astrology related that I follow that have been going on under a bunch of these Sumerian tablets. Of course, this gets into Nibiru, Planet X, stuff like that. So that could really be a trigger to that stuff. Although I am going to be honest, it's North Node Gemini, so I don't have all the facts. I don't think we have all the facts about that stuff yet. But I would say that anytime you have a comet, and especially this comet, and the fact that you're not going to see it for 6,800 years, yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird to be the reflection of a human being 6,800 years ago, and now you're a human being seeing the same thing. That look at society and where it's at today. Obviously, society at that time, we might look at it as the beginning of society, but maybe we don't know prior to that so much about how it all went. So now it's reformed. Obviously, society is going to go to a new place, or rocket ship into a new place. This is also happening with, I had mentioned in deep astrology, like Gary Caton to Gemini Brett to, they did some great work with this comet and showing where it's at, of course, zodiacally and on the ecliptic and where that stuff is. And so I really think that this one has come to show us that there's a lot more fortune in our lives than we're seeing out there, that the media is portraying. I said a lot of that, especially with what's going on with in the Mayan system, this 10-day, activation portal, 10 gap days in a row, at the same time that this comet is at its peak to be able to see here before it dips into the sun's energy to where we can't see it. So yeah, I would say that there's something very, very deeply happening this week that we are all about to see a big reveal very soon. Somebody had asked me also in the chat earlier, like, I thought the stock market was going to, you were preparing for just in July to be prepared for the stock market. Well, yeah, I mean, number one is if you look at the way that things are working with Jupiter and Pluto, they definitely do a very big, weird thing. Two, you don't know where the stimulus is going today, right? Three, you don't, the investments in these stocks, the investments in this stuff, I mean, then there's this weird stuff about what's going on with China and the trade, and especially with the Hong Kong, and if the sanctions have taken down the Hong Kong market because China is doing security there, what that would do for the marketplace, that it is a volatile time. It is a pump and dump bear market. And at any minute, this market will just go ba-boom, you know what I mean, on you. So it's like, it's not something to really be very, feel safe about, I would say right now. It's definitely not a marketplace to have a lot of your money invested in. And I would follow William Stick Evers on Facebook as an astrologer. He's a financial astrologer, and he's done some great videos and some great podcasts about this Jupiter-Pluto cycle and just even other cycles and in financial aspects, and where actually, because he worked on Wall Street and he's an astrologer, that there is a lot to say that this marketplace is like a prop up, and it's been propped up, especially since the recession in 2008, and it's on stilts. And that even crypto right now, I had predicted that crypto was going to start to see really weird things, especially look at the Twitter hack that just happened. Look at I've been predicting that there's going to be counterfeit energy, and this is the beginnings of it, right? Like the counterfeit front that, I think it was Obama's Twitter got hacked and said to buy Bitcoin.
Obama, Elon Musk, Warren Buffett,
right.
Bill Gates.
So that's counterfeit in the sense of like, oh, buy into this, right? Then what about, if they can do that, the whole crypto market has to really look, unless it's pretty much going to be about whether or not what systems are being used, where is it being mined. That market, though, I would say that Bitcoin's the safest out of all of them because it's been around the longest, but you're going to be also dealing with very Capricorn Pluto control systems and money systems in the Federal Reserve and other worldwide banks that are definitely going to go to war with it and manipulate it or play with it in a way. So, this is a time to where you really have to make sure it's your financial advisor, making sure that they know what they're doing and they're not trying to just keep you in to keep money and keep their job. And you to do your own research, and you to follow companies and so forth, if you're going to keep in stock, that make sure that would make it through this monopoly game we're all in. Like, let's be real. Like I only kept my stock in Best Buy because I know with lockdowns, people still want TVs and PlayStations and all that. And I don't know, when it dipped down to, I got it at $67 a share, and it's at like, last time I checked, it was like 3 days ago, it was at like $82 a share. So, I gained some good profit on that, but I'm just keeping that stock because if there is another big lockdown in America, guess what? People still need to go get TVs and they still need to go get electronics because they get bored and they're at home. So think about that when it comes to like the simplicity of the stocks you're investing in. You know what I mean? Like I dropped all my Ford stock and I'm a big Ford guy, but let's be real. Like cars are not being sold as much and I'm not going to keep that. That stock has dipped worse than it even was in 2014. And even like Ford's never even really come back. GM, same thing. Like, you know what I mean? So think Capricorn, like what actually is going to sustain if you're going to invest in something. There's something weird about Tesla to me, just for the fact that it's one of the biggest stocks of all time right now. And it's like, what are they doing? Like, let's be real. Like, sure, they're going to promote the whole, you know, revolution of electric cars, but also cars are not being bought as much. They still need to build the roads and to have all the placements to charge them if you're going to go anywhere. Of course, here in California, we're lucky because we have them pretty much everywhere. And we also have Las Vegas as a charging hub, so we can go to Vegas. But after that, you'd be on your own.
Maybe that's what they're doing with the 5G. They're going to be doing wireless charging.
Oh, yeah, like how you can wireless charge your phone.
Yeah.
But what if the roads were like that?
That's
like,
what I mean.
Yeah.
They're just going to be fucking shocking you while you're
that'd be
driving.
kinda, hey, it might tickle your, you know, your butt or something.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Hey, that ain't too bad.
But,
Yeah, so does Saturn return apply to Vedic as well? If so, is there ever an instance where Saturn is in different signs between the two, and how does that work?
I mean, yeah, Saturn return is definitely going to affect Vedic astrology just as much as it is Western, because Saturn is prominent in the return aspect of both forms. We're always looked at as a very big event. I would say that the differences would be in Vedic astrology, you know, if you have your moon with Saturn, you're in your Sati Sati, so you would be going through a much more harsh time. So if you happen to be a moon Saturn person and you have Saturn approaching, it sucks because my godfather Johnny, who passed away in 2017, he is moon Saturn in Capricorn, and he went through a very rough time and he passed away during his Sati Sati and his Saturn return. So it can be very difficult if you have your moon and Saturn in the same spot, and that's where Vedic astrology would add that Sati Sati of the peak of the 7-year cycle of the preparation for it. So it's like it's kind of like a volume knob that, like, you know, when Saturn's in the sign before your Saturn, the knob's turning up and then it peaks out at the Saturn return, and then when it goes into the next sign, it dims the knob and then fades out. So there's that 7-year cycle of Saturn from those 3 signs, with your moon being in the sign that's in the middle. That is a very intense period in your life. It all depends on how well your moon is placed, if you have a good moon or not, and it depends on if you have how well Saturn is aspecting those things as well. So, but in Western astrology, your Saturn return is going to be just as powerful. Just, of course, what planets are aspecting it? Are you having progressions that are affecting Saturn? What house does Saturn rule in your chart? Same thing goes for Vedic too. There's so much connection between Vedic and Western that actually I'm at a point in my life as an astrologer where I'm like, I don't see much difference. Like, I actually don't look at Vedic astrologers as like bad astrologers or something that some Westerners might do. Or I think more than now than ever during this pandemic time and really just sitting in astrology and using all systems, that we're at a beautiful time in astrology where you can see the connections everywhere, and there's different points of view that are actually just as relevant as the other points of view that we can connect together right now. So
What was the financial astrologer again? William.
Stick Evers,
There you go.
can you speak on the Grand Cross that's happening next weekend? I mean, you know, we've already been in a lot of Grand Cross energy, but especially when that moon comes into Libra, but it will be, you know, it's going to be with Mercury. I think that's like a little bit of a premonition of what's coming in October with the new moon that will be in a Grand Cross, technically, and from the way that I look at it the most. But to be honest with you, I don't think that event, it's going to have big things, but I'm going to be honest with you, just like running it all in my head right now. The sun is going to be in Leo. Mars is not yet at the exact square points yet of Saturn, Jupiter, or Pluto. So I would not say that that's an event yet of terrible craziness yet, of freak out. I would say we need to see Mars reach the second or the third decan, and then we can start talking about some grand crosses that will be gnarly, or cardinal crosses, or if you want to even go into it as far as just even T-squares. Because to me, T-squares are just as powerful as grand crosses, because you can actually find the zone in a T-square that's not being affected, but it is being affected just as there's a planet there, but that's almost like the outlet. Whereas like a grand cross kind of feels like, I don't know, you're in a massive pressure cooker. So, but with the moon, if you're using the moon as the one to create the cardinal cross or the grand cross, it's fast. And if you're using Mercury too, it's quick. So it's not as long lasting or powerful, you know. I have a video just to answer this quick question about, can astrology predict major solar events such as solar flares large enough to trigger devastating geomagnetic storms? Yeah, I did a video. You can look it up, the Leo King solar flares. It's from 2013. And what I was doing in the background is there's a guy, suspicious observers. Instead of it being an O, it's with a 0. And for, I don't know, I think 7 years now, or maybe 8 years, he's been doing a daily report on the solar flare activity and connecting it to weather patterns, to a lot more science stuff too, but it's also, you know, predicting of earthquakes, to so many things. And that in the background, what I was doing was I was logging during the Pluto-Uranus squares of 2012 through 2015 that solar maximum and some of those big flares were being triggered by events with Pluto and Uranus in square, or the eclipses and those things, or anytime the moon was with Pluto Uranus in aspect, also Mars aspects and so forth, and seeing the days of C flares, to if we had an M flare to an X flare, to, you know, like there was a lot of data that I was working on that's on my old computer in my other office. But yeah, I would say that astrology can predict when the sun is going to activate more so than ever.
Your thoughts on Nibiru and Planet X?
I mean, so, you know, I got, like everybody else, kind of pretty obsessed about it there for a minute. I'm not obsessed about it now, because again, it's one of those things where, do we really think that there is a planet that comes this close and they just kind of jump off the planet and come on here? I mean, it kind of reminds me of Marco Polo, like in the pool, like, okay, like we're in this pool and like these beings jump out of the pool on the deck and they run around and then they, hey, Leo, no. Exactly, good example. Jumping up and then jumping down. Do you think that the beings physically do that? I don't think it's a physical thing. I don't think that Nibiru is a physical planet. I think that it is if it would be a fourth dimensional planet. It would be fourth dimensional beings, and that we wouldn't be able to see them physically, but we would be able to somewhat have triggers maybe from physical things, like maybe there was that asteroid Oumuamua that came in 2017 that Michael Luton did a lot of great work on and writing about. That was the first asteroid to come in from another solar system, not within our own asteroid belt. As that was the same time that Voyager 2 was leaving our solar system, right? Like that was that was an alien. Like, let's be real. Like the first time we've ever seen an asteroid from another solar system come through. There's like going to be triggers, because even somebody had asked me in full disclosure last night about Aleister Crowley, and I know that triggers some people, but I just was reading some of his astrological books. But he puts Neptune as the outpost to the sun. It's got Neptune as his back to the sun, and that he is the guide as far as the intuition of the sun that predicts, or not predicts, but gauges like what's coming into our solar system, that almost like warns the sun, like, hey, there's an asteroid coming. And it's almost like Neptune's tapped into all the planets too, in a weird way of like, hey, Jupiter, you're going to need to fling this one off, you know, like, or whatever, right? Like there's something about Neptune being this outpost that Aleister Crowley said, and it being this intuitive like outpost of warning. But at the same time, it's lonely out there, because so far, if you were to use a Game of Thrones analogy, it'd be like out there by, you know, the wall where the White Walkers meet to whatever, I forgot the name of Jon Snow's people. Not where he's from, but like when you go out to the wall. I forgot what they're called, but that would be a little Plutonian too, though. Although Pluto almost just like kind of sees and is like the CIA a little bit, and like also Pluto can be so far away and such other aspects and be obsessed with looking in another direction or be obsessed with looking up. Pluto's weird. Pluto, with the way that it goes around the sun, it actually looks on top of all the planets and then goes below and gets an undercarriage, and now it's coming down on the undercarriage. So now Pluto's obsessed with looking underneath the skirt of the solar system. So Pluto sometimes gets distracted because it's so focused on something else, where Neptune keeps the radar going all the time, which, if we're going to connect this to Nibiru, there'd be something about us intuitively being able to feel like something was off or something was by. I don't think that there's a physical planet that is going to show up and just park in front of the Earth or park in front of the solar system and just have these beings jump off it physically. I just think that that's...
So she said that she was more concerned about the gravitational effects and on people and the radiation, and that she hadn't really heard about that. So...
yeah, well, I would say that, again, that's why I'm calling it a fourth dimensional planet, that it wouldn't really be a physical form of gravitational pull and so forth, because what we're seeing, and actually suspicious observers, Ben would be somebody to ask about, not that, but ask him about how right now with the sun, the magnetic poles and the shifting of the solar minimum that we're at, but there was a lot of data that came out in January in one of the shows that I watched that he had brought out and shown that the scientists had proven not only did all the galaxies that are here all actually really fully connect, that there's no dark matter between them, but I think that the biggest thing was that every planet is shifting right now magnetically because of the sun. So the sun rules the magnetics of all the planets. So I think that this is taking us away from looking at the sun, which I would say that astrology is based off the sun, our lives are based off the sun, and we're looking for this like alternative explanation to things when we need to look directly at what everything comes from, of love, light, and things that change things, which is the sun. So I would say that it's the sun that is causing the gravitational weirdness and the radiation, because let's be honest, what does bring radiation to the planet is the sun. So I would say that the Nibiru experience, of course there'd be, if you look at like a superhero movie, there's always got to be the counterpart of the bad guy, which would be Nibiru. But again, I would say that if the magic of the sun, which is a star, is so powerful, that Nibiru would be very random and different, and be the alternate, would not be seen, since we can't see it. Think about that one. I'll take a couple more questions here, and then we're going to roll out.
I've seen a couple people ask on YouTube and on High Vibe about your thoughts of the Book of Revelations.
I was gonna. There's this funny video on Twitter of Trump when he gets asked if he likes the Old Testament. And he goes, "Hey, so Mr." They're like, this is before he was president, so it's like, "Hey, so Trump, do you like Old Testament or New Testament?" He goes, "Oh, neutral, neutral."
They're both good.
They're both good, yeah. I just think that's like the funniest interview ever. And they're like, "What's your favorite quote?" "Oh, I like to keep that private." I'm not going to say that. I would just say that Revelations to me is a perfectly set way of, especially if you watch Age of Deception and my research on the Bible, and even some of the research we just did on the documentary, which is here on my YouTube and it's on High Vibe, that we did with Anne, of course, that the Bible is something that, is an orchestrated story and written and purposely put in different sections. And, there is something about Revelation that I would say happens in real life, but the same way the planets do. We get to the end of cycles, but then there's always a brand new beginning. And I think that the Bible likes to make it seem like you are, it kind of adds a little bit more darker aspect to it, a very 29-degree Pisces aspect of things. It's like, you must surrender fully to God to some sort of way, and you must resurrect, and you must be you don't want to be forgotten or left behind, or, and, it's of course the second coming of Christ at the same time that there would be let Lucifer's return and so forth. Like, I think that it can be conflated to a little bit too much of a theatrical aspect to of the actual physical story. But I think that there's a positive spiritual story to take from it, that when times come that there's going to be great change, which is a revelation. that it feels like there is a battle of dark and light, which there is, and then it moves on. And then it doesn't mean that like we die and the whole earth dies and everything goes into and then you go to some other place or something. I think that that's being taken out of context way too much. And I think people are watching too much Dorian Virtue, who betrayed our community and went the other direction. Oh, this was a question. Craig, can you ask David if there is a process for reading the spaces between the planets where the conjoined manifestation forms?
Well, David, can you?
If there is a process for reading the spaces between the planets where the conjoined manifestation forms, I would say it's about progressing the transits in your head in your own intuitive mind, because it is an intuitive mind that is the real mind, that is the heart mind, that is the spiritual mind. That a lot like predicting the moves on a chessboard, it's watching on how the planets play the game like chess. Like they're gonna do things different. They do have their patterns, but it's like as an astrologer, you're conforming different pieces that have same patterns, but in different blocks and different spaces. And there's something about it, an intuitive element of knowing how to go, yeah, the last time this was here, that was happening. And then understanding like, okay, this is the construction zone of the universe. This is where the universe has gone through a lot, but it's not anymore. You know, like there's a lot to it. It's a big process, but it's actually very simple once you understand all the parts of the astrology and understand all the parts that intuitively you just go, oh, boom, boom, boom. And then there's something about, I don't know, I was having a convo about this last night and the night before about deep astrology. People have been asking me, like, how do you just sit up there and just go bam, 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 and take all those things all at once and then just deliver a message without no notes? And it's like, you find the process that you're talking about in the moment of doing it, opposed to pre-looking at it and then trying to communicate it to yourself or to others in a predetermined form. That it's in the moment of doing the math, in the universe, in the vortex of this spiritual energy, that a really powerful intuitive astrologer is somebody that knows how to run it all while in the moment, run it all in the back, know the math, know the patterns. And it's that space that you're talking about in between, that conjoining space, I would say, that is where all the power is of a horoscope, where all the power is, and it feels much more potent in your life, while tapping into the collective, while tapping into the individual, and understanding, which I would say the most important part is that it is sun sign astrology, and that people like to look at just their rising signs, and I'm like, that's great. And for horoscope, it is great. But that the real deep horoscope going on in people's lives is collective, 1. 2 is your sun sign. 3 then is your rising. But it's like rising is going to deal with more events of like what it looks like physically in your life. But evolutionary wise, you're going to want to know the zodiacs and how they're shifting and evolving for you as a sun sign. And a lot of people just feel like that they're born under a bad sign. They like their rising more. And it's like, you just have to realize that it's sun sign astrology. Like the sun in your sign is evolving, and that there is something magnificent happening underneath you being obsessed about what the physical world looks like. And once you get to that tap in, you can tap into what we were just speaking about, that space that's there. We'll take one more question. I'd say this isn't. I'm just like going through. It's like advice for this upcoming new moon. I'd watch Deep Astrology because I went an hour and a half about it.
Well, just went across the news that apparently they took down the pictures of the Clintons and G.W. Bush at the White House.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, you said there would be some big changes coming, you know?
Yeah, if you watch my 2020 What's Next, I was actually watching clips of it this morning.
Right. It reminded me because we have a person on High Vibe with the name Hill Dog, and then it says in parentheses, not Clinton.
Somebody just wrote, honestly, so science heavy with lack of spiritual interpretation. And I would agree in that. I've been posting about that for the last couple days. And I think that it's important to have the intuitive mind instead of the mind by itself. To get back to the Bible real quick in the Revelation, somebody put the Bible is the story of our spiritual ascension in parables. I would say that the story of the Bible is a continuation story that has been evolved into many different forms of the story of consciousness itself, using the planets and the zodiac. Oh, I like this thing. He thinks he is genius, but him and Craig are stuck in their feminine side, and they actually suck. Wonderful. Actually, you know, it's funny. What's his name? I don't know why I forgot his name right now. JP Spears just did an amazing video about haters on comments. It was the funniest thing I've ever watched in my life. You guys should go watch it. He did such a great job.
Yeah, he's had some good ones lately.
Lately, he's this guy. I mean, he's always been on fire, but like during this whole lockdown, this fool's on fire. Like JP Spears is the man, and I've even more. I remember we were talking to him about booking him for when we were doing Sacred Valley for Insomniac.
Yeah.
And I wish that would have happened because that guy's on fire right now. And honestly, the video he just did about like haters is the best video I think I've ever seen from him. Like, and I thought the astrology one was just as good that he just did, but I was like, wow, like this, and like looking at that comment, it's like, okay, and it's like funny how he does it. It's like, okay, I guess Craig, we're in our feminine form and we suck, you know.
That's why, you know.
All right.
That's why I've got this long hair. You know.
Yeah, and
Tapping
you
in my
know,
femininity.
I guess, you know. Do I teach High Vibe members how to read their charts? I do through the High Vibe TV school. So you can go to highvibetvschool.com. And actually, I would say that for the cheaper price right now, especially the love school that I did, I teach everybody how to read a chart to know how to do love. It's 10 classes, 4 hours a piece. It's 40 hours of content. And I teach you from the basic all the way to more advanced levels. You know. Why is High Vibe not more diverse, and what are policies oversight on anti-racism? So,
Wow.
I would say that High Vibe policy number one is based upon spirituality. Number one, we've had lots of diverse people on it prior to that on Future Life, and right now we're at a position to where we just lost Jax, so it's me, and this all started from just being me as the Leo King. And so then Future Life was an experiment that turned into High Vibe. And the policy is just like any policy of when it comes to work, that you don't base anything off somebody's race or income or situation in their life or who they love or anything. I mean, we just go with whatever I'm going to be honest, we go with whatever the universe shows up with that works. So it's not some like orchestrated thing. Like it's not some preordained, like, you know, we must pick and choose based off. If anything, that would be exactly doing what you're trying to kind of come at us at, of saying is like picking people based off race. Like that's the opposite of what we do. We go off their soul and who can do it. And people of multi different cultures and ethnicities have been on both platforms, not only in interviews to being talent, but right now the talent's pretty limited. It's just right now it's me, Tamara, the Peace Dealer, Tim Losi, Kim. Number one, I'm Indonesian. What is Kim?
Filipino.
She's Filipino.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know where else you want me to go with that. Like
First generation Filipino.
you know, like I'm kind of like, I don't even know why that question even would be asked in such a weird way. But I don't know where you're seeing that question and writing it in such bold letters.
Nope. You know, people are always going to try to poke and project and dig up things that aren't there. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's like that's what high vibe's about. Is actually like.
Hold on, the mic's like dropping.
What God brings. Like today I did a reading and I just canceled.
On the,
You
yeah.
can't buy a reading on my website anymore because it got overloaded.
The mic level is dropping. There we. I don't know. Pull it up. Maybe I don't know. That was weird.
Is it still dropping?
Yeah, you're sitting really low.
It's back on now. We're back on. You got me now?
I do.
Okay.
But
so
I mean, if it's gonna die, because I
Oh.
wasn't planning on being, so I'd put the fresh ones. Probably. I guess that one got brought over here.
yeah, I got it.
Well, hello, y'all. Yeah, we're gonna be finishing this up here. So I know that we got someone was asking about stellium. Someone was asking about shapes in a chart and the significance of that. And we're back.
Yeah. I just wanted to finish what I was saying was that the idea of high vibe here is like what is high vibe? High vibe is like, getting back to the readings thing, like today I had a great reading with a client, and it was like she had been rescheduled a couple times, and I am overloaded, and I've been overloaded with readings for 10 years in my life, and especially with running this business and filming over 20 something videos a week that it always is every week, and running the business and so forth. But it was like divine timing, and even she felt like it was. And she had spoke with Kim last night, and she's doing her paint. I think she's doing like some school that she's doing on her own, and just like life is about divine timing, and that's the highest vibe is when you're in that space. That I think that the control of people right now and how they got to control everything is going against the narrative and almost creating things that aren't in flow. So the things that, if you're in true flow, then you're not in a space where you're determining based upon ethnicity or race or gender or anything like that. You're just in flow. So everything is in flow, like with the universe and the way things are. And I think that this is becoming kind of a weird narrative in the world that a lot of people are not in flow. I can understand, though, how there are people who are not in flow, who are choosing to not, or be selective, I guess, in what they choose as far as people to work for, ethnicity-wise, or race, or so forth. That's not what goes on here. We allow everything to come through from the universe, like, and that's something that just is. It's not like we actually go out and directly hit people up. People submit to us. So it's not like we do that. And part of that submission process is like, does it feel like it would fit? Do they feel like that they speak and do the work that we're doing here? Or maybe do we have too many astrologers right now? Do we have too many tarot readers right now? Like, it's very based upon just that. I mean, it's very simple. And the policies are very clear on terms of service. You can go look at the privacy policies, to the policies of being in California. It's California for Corporation, which is, especially as me as a CEO that hires, I follow all of the California boards, which I am in a state which is, I would say, the most diverse and the most open and the biggest, possibilities for an employee ever, as far as to not be judged, to be able to do what you need to do, to be able to feel comfortable in work, to also get the amount of money that you could survive with. And that's something where people think I'm like so alt-right or so extreme right, yet I keep the corporations that I have in California, which is about diversity, which is about having a high minimum wage, which is about all those things. So I just think it's kind of ironic that people seem to put me in that corner when it's quite the opposite. And I guess we'll just finish that one question. Yeah, I guess we're going to finish with this. Well, I guess this is something that's being talked about in the astrology. Did you see Kate Pasha's videos with ex-member bad-mouthing him? I'm sure you're probably referring to either Timothy or I forgot her the name of the Christine, I think it is, or Christina. I wasn't involved with them ever. I know a lot of people though involved with the Dream Team at a time, like Julius Seamus. I worked with, and I am a CIA agent. I'm Agent 7 from back in 2012. I've never met Kai Pasha in my life. I've worked with people who've worked with him though. So, but all those situations and stuff, I really haven't spent too much time looking into it all. I haven't had enough time to. But of course, I'm somebody at the same token who am seeing it pop up in the astrology community right now and in the boards. And I think that it's just a natural thing for us to have to discuss is there is that whole notion of like when you do this work and so forth, like describing and understanding where the boundaries are when it comes to romance or sexuality and so forth, like, because that can be a funny place, and that I think it's brought up great conversations. I've read one of the girls' accusations, but to me it was something that I was like, okay, like I see her point. And so, but I don't, it's very hard when you're dealing with people and there's no legal things that I know about. Like that's not my place to put my opinion in on any of this, except that I respect women and that women are something that have to always be respected as a chivalrous, not only masculine in the world, but as somebody that's, I don't know, I'm a Leo and I'm somebody who's like connected to the Lancelot energy. So, but I just feel that it's of course hard to read because I've always liked Kate Pasha as an astrologer, but it's also something where I think that there's a lot of things that have to be looked at and we all don't know. These are all battles between people and the inner workings of things. And, if things need to be called out, they need to be called out, and people have to make the judge themselves with things. But I've never worked with any of all of them except for, I think Rick Levine did something with them, and then I worked with Julius Seamus. Those are the only two that I really am close with that have done it, but they've never reported anything weird. And I've talked with Timothy before, but it was years ago. I haven't talked to him in a minute. But again, the only ones that I actually have met in person at actual astrology conferences are Rick Levine and Julius Seamus. And so the Dream Team or even Kai Pasha, I've never met at the astrology conferences. We were at UAC 2018. I was at UAC 2012. So I'm somebody who, sure, like high vibe and even like more of the Leo King app or Future Life or astrology apps at the main part, but high vibe is not. But I also maintain relationships within the astrological community and go to the conferences, which that's not something that I saw in recent years, because I think Kate Pasha did go to conferences back in the 80s, from what I heard from some of the videos that he had put out about this whole situation. But I haven't seen the Dream Team itself or them at the conferences. I don't see them with the Dream Team booth at the astrology conferences. We were just there in 2018, and we had a booth, and we interviewed, I think, 11 people. So to me, and this is one of my pet peeves about the whole situation, is I get how the boards are upset, but it's like, this is also like an astrology, company and everything in another, it doesn't matter, I guess, what country it is, but it's not like the Dream Team or K-Pasha are really doing things in the astrological community that the boards are dealing with. Of course, the boards have taken over as like they are the ones in control of astrology somehow, which I've had trouble with the boards in the past. So I'm not trying to say this based upon me backing of what K-Pasha has done, because I don't even really know all the things that have been done, right? So I don't even know. I haven't got enough into it all. But I can say that I've had my problems with the boards, because I don't even think the boards are an issue with K-Pasha right now. I'm saying that right now this situation has actually made the boards have all these crazy videos that I've seen lately about what to do at conferences, what to do about the astrology community, people signing things up. And I'm listening to them, and I'm like, okay, like, I think that there needs to be a new board, and I think that there needs to be a new organization for astrology that's much more in touch with the astrology we're talking about. Because I'm going to be honest, if you take all the people on the most of these organizations and most of the boards, they are not really doing that much for astrology. There are some that are, so I'm not going to say they're all not, because I know some of them and they're really good people. But majority of them are just there for just to be feeling cool or something. And so the astrologers that are out there doing great work and doing big things are, number one, denied entrances into these things because they feel like we're too rebellious or we have too many fans. There was many things that I proposed to help UAC to get more people on their boards, to get more people to their conferences, live stream wise, to everything, and it was denied. So I feel like putting power to these boards off this situation is almost a cry for the astrology community to be careful to follow these people, because they don't know what they're doing with the astrology community. They don't know how to do it within themselves. They don't know how to keep members, and they don't know what they're doing. And they act like they're academics that know everything, yet they don't go out there and interact with the people that are in love with astrology and practice astrology, and they're only in their own little circles. So, and that's just what I'm going to say, and I'm going to continue to say it, including Ray Merriman, who I think, if we're going to be honest, like, and Craig was there, I walk into UAC and he looks up right to me and goes, "Oh, there's the troublemaker of the astrology community." And I'm like, wow, I'm just walking into this conference that I spent thousands of dollars on the booth for, spent thousands of dollars on the hotels for all my team. And that's what you have to say to me? I just feel that a lot of the people in these astrology boards are like what we're seeing in the government right now, of a lot of people that are just messed up people that are finding some way to stay relevant. And they're taking this K-Pasha situation and they're overinflating it, not for the victims, not for if they're victims of, I don't know the situation or even whatever. And they're taking a situation and just trying to make themselves relevant right now. And other people that are not related to the K-Pasha situation or not related to the women that have come out against him are also trying to find a way to find some sort of relevance in all this in such a way that is creating a hyper hysteria about things that in the astrology community is something that, should be between them. And of course, people are allowed to speak in their life, like as I am right now. But I think that when it starts moving to the boards and it starts moving at a time when everybody's in a COVID crisis, the boards don't even get together. The boards don't even really look at the astrology community. The boards could honestly, in my opinion, really pretty much care less as far as like them focusing on just their own like organizations and their own certifications. And there's so many different forms of astrology. There's so many different points of view. And it's more like a track record, right? These are the same boards that all predicted Hillary Clinton to win in 2016 and embarrass the entire astrology community. So, like, let's be honest with that, right? So, like, let's be real. Like, should we put energy and power into these people making choices off things that happen in the astrological community, but with an organization that doesn't associate themselves with the boards? Why take that in and bring that in as if they're trying to own astrology, which I think is something that the power of astrology that will always be so good is the fact that it is not owned by some sort of board, that it does not have some sort of certification process that has to be through something the same way that doctors or therapists do, because it is something that is beyond, and it is some places that reach that doctors and therapists can't go. And I think that these people are power hungry, and I think that they are bored at home on COVID, and they don't know how to reach out to people, and they don't know how to make exciting content, and they don't know how to do predictions, and they don't know how to do horoscopes, and they don't know what they're doing, and they're old, and they haven't done books since 1980s, and they're old school, and they don't know what's up. But a lot of people in the astrology community are great, that are in and go to these conferences, and some of them that are a part of the boards. I think that there's a new wave of astrologers right now that are about to build that. But I think these older ones need to, really, really think about what they're doing right now, because they are, in many ways, could screw things up. It's like the irony of how we're looking at the government of the two oldest presidents that are going to run against each other. It's like the same thing is happening in the astrology boards right now. And that'll end it. So I appreciate you all. And again, about the whole K-Pacha situation, I really have only looked at one thing, and I saw half of one of his videos, and that was it. So I don't know the whole situation. I don't know how big it is. But then I started to get on my Facebook, started to see that it went to other directions, and a lot of questions about the boundaries of sexuality and astrology and so forth. And I think that those are important conversations to have. But I just think that the conversations are being now controlled by these organizations that really are not doing anything for astrology right now. So what gives them the whole higher than mighty of how to define how astrology is going to be in the future? Because I think that they've done a horrible job. I think they did a great job to get us here, but I think that it's time for them to retire and move on. A lot like Joe Biden and Trump even. It's just they're too old, and they're old views, and it's over. It's like this is going to be a changing of the guard, and that's my opinion. So
Boom.
Yep. From Craig and I and High Vibe, we love you, and
Love you.
we'll see you later.
See ya.